Gone? What do you mean gone? My voice echoed through my empty apartment as I stared at my banking app in disbelief. The relocation fund from Anderson Global, $250,000 meant to facilitate my move to their Tokyo headquarters, had vanished overnight. My phone buzzed with an incoming call. Diana, my mother-in-law. My stomach twisted as I answered, already knowing what was coming. "Oh, Amanda dear," her voice dripped with false sweetness. "I suppose you've noticed the money's gone. I had to make an executive decision as family matriarch. Jessica needed that beach house more than you needed to move to Japan." I gripped my phone tighter, my knuckles turning white. Jessica, my sister-in-law, had been complaining about wanting a vacation home since her divorce. Of course, Diana would prioritize her daughter's wants over my career. "That money wasn't yours to take," I said, keeping my voice steady despite the rage building inside me. "The company deposited that for my relocation. It's tied to my contract." Diana's laugh was sharp, cutting. "Please, you don't deserve that position anyway. Everyone knows you only got it because of your fancy degrees. Jessica has real talent, real needs." Besides, her voice turned smug. "I had access to the account through Michael's name. And what's his is mine to manage." Michael, my husband, was away on a research expedition in Antarctica. No phone contact, just emergency satellite communications for another 3 weeks. Diana had timed this perfectly. "Thanks for letting me know," I replied calmly, already pulling up my laptop. Diana's triumphant laugh faltered at my composed response. "That's it? No crying, no begging." She sounded disappointed. "Well, it doesn't matter. What's done is done. The money's been transferred and the beach house paperwork is being processed. You'll just have to decline that position like a good daughter-in-law." I smiled, though she couldn't see it. "We'll see about that. Goodbye, Diana." What my mother-in-law didn't know was that I wasn't just any corporate employee. As Anderson Global's newly appointed head of cybersecurity operations, I had insisted on certain protocols when accepting the position. Every transaction over $10,000 required 2-factor authentication and an electronic signature verification. More importantly, all international transfers needed approval from the company's compliance team. I dialed a number I'd hoped I'd never have to use. "Mr. Harrison? This is Amanda Chin from cybersecurity. We have a code red situation. Someone accessed my relocation fund without authorization." I pulled up the transaction details on my screen. "I need you to initiate Protocol 17. James Harrison, head of Anderson Global's internal investigations, didn't miss a beat. The funds were transferred to a domestic account 40 minutes ago. Do you know who might be responsible?" "My mother-in-law, Diana Porter. She used my husband's credentials while he's unreachable in Antarctica. She's admitted to taking the money to buy a beach house for her daughter." I could hear Harrison's sharp intake of breath. "That's remarkably brazen. Does she understand this constitutes corporate fraud?" "I don't think she cares. She's always viewed company resources as family assets to be distributed as she sees fit." I forwarded him the recorded conversation, another security protocol I'd implemented after previous incidents with Diana. "This is excellent documentation," Harrison said, his tone shifting from concern to confident. "The transfer's already been flagged by our systems. We can freeze the funds before they clear for the property purchase. Would you like us to involve law enforcement?" I thought about Diana's smug voice, her certainty that she could control my life through manipulation and theft. For 12 years, she'd been undermining me, using Michael's name to access our accounts, always claiming it was for family. "Yes," I said firmly. "It's time she learned actions have consequences. We'll need you to come to the office immediately to file a formal complaint. The investigation team will want to document everything." As I grabbed my keys and headed for the door, my phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. "Mom says you're being difficult about the beach house money. Don't be selfish. You know I need this more than you need some fancy job in Japan." I didn't bother responding. Let them think they'd won. The investigation team would be arriving at Diana's house within the hour, and I wanted every moment of her realization documented. This wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about standing up to years of manipulation and entitlement. Diana thought she was untouchable, that family ties meant she could take whatever she wanted without consequences. She was about to learn how wrong she was. As I drove to the office, I thought about Michael, still blissfully unaware in Antarctica. He'd always tried to play peacekeeper between me and his family, making excuses for their behavior. "That's just how Mom is," he'd say. "You know she means well." But this time was different. This wasn't just Diana overstepping boundaries or making snide comments at family dinners. She committed corporate fraud, used his name while he was unavailable to object, and potentially jeopardized both our careers. My phone kept buzzing with messages from Diana's flying monkeys, distant relatives, and family friends telling me I was being unreasonable, that family should come first, that Jessica deserved nice things after her divorce. They had no idea what was coming. I pulled into the Anderson Global parking lot, straightened my jacket, and grabbed my laptop. It was time to show Diana exactly who she underestimated. The real question wasn't whether I could stop her. It was whether she'd realized the magnitude of her mistake before or after the investigators arrived at her door. The Anderson Global conference room felt unusually tense as I sat across from James Harrison and two senior investigators. Security footage from multiple cameras played on the large screen behind them, showing Diana entering the local bank branch just hours ago. "Mrs. Porter used your husband's online credentials to initiate the transfer," Harrison explained, sliding a document across the table. "But she needed to appear in person to complete it due to the amount. She forged his signature on these forms." I studied the grainy image of Diana at the bank counter, her designer handbag perched confidently on her arm as she signed my husband's name. The timestamp showed 9:47 a.m., right before her gloating phone call to me. "We've already contacted the bank's fraud department," the female investigator, Agent Torres, added. "They're cooperating fully. The funds have been frozen before they could be used for the beach house purchase." My phone buzzed again. Another message from Jessica. "Mom's freaking out because some people from your company showed up at her house. What did you do?" Before I could respond, Harrison's phone rang. His expression shifted from professional concern to barely concealed satisfaction as he listened. "Well," he said after hanging up, "your mother-in-law is currently trying to convince our investigation team that this was all a misunderstanding. She's claiming she had verbal authorization from your husband." I pulled out my laptop. That would be impossible. Michael's been at McMurdo Station in Antarctica for the past month. Here's his expedition schedule and the communication blackout protocols. I turned the screen to show them. The only contact allowed is for life-threatening emergencies via satellite phone. "This is excellent," Agent Torres said, adding the documents to her file. "Mrs. Porter's story is already falling apart." My phone rang, Diana's number. Harrison nodded, signaling for me to answer on speaker. "Amanda." Diana's voice had lost its earlier smugness, replaced by barely controlled panic. "There are people here asking ridiculous questions about the money. You need to call them off right now." "I can't do that, Diana. You committed fraud." "Don't be dramatic. This is a family matter. I was just redistributing funds to someone who needs them more. Jessica's realtor is expecting the money today." "The money isn't yours to redistribute," I replied calmly. "It's company funds specifically allocated for my relocation. What you did is criminal." "Criminal?" she sputtered. "I'm your mother-in-law. Everything in this family goes through me. Michael would understand." "Michael is unreachable in Antarctica, which you knew when you forged his signature. The bank has security footage, Diana. The company has documentation. It's over." There was a long pause. When Diana spoke again, her voice was different, smaller, with an edge of fear. "These people are saying something about criminal charges. You wouldn't do that to family, would you?" I thought about all the times she'd used that word, family, like a weapon. How she wielded it to justify every boundary crossed, every manipulation, every attempt to control our lives. "You're right, family wouldn't do this to family," I said. "Remember that next time you're signing someone else's name on bank documents." I ended the call, looking up to find Harrison and Torres watching me with something like respect. "The police are on their way to her house now," Harrison said. "The evidence is clear-cut. Mrs. Porter will likely face charges for fraud, forgery, and attempted theft." My phone lit up with a text from Jessica. "Mom's being arrested? This is all your fault. That beach house was supposed to be my fresh start." I switched my phone off, focusing on the matter at hand. "What happens next?" "The company will press charges," Harrison confirmed. "This isn't just about the money. It's about maintaining the integrity of our security protocols. Your mother-in-law tried to sabotage a key executive's international transfer. We take that very seriously. As if on cue, my email pinged with a message from Anderson Global's CEO. Amanda, just heard about the situation. Your position in Tokyo is secure. Take whatever time you need to handle this family matter. We stand behind our people. The support felt validating, but a hollow ache settled in my chest as I thought about Michael. How would he react when he finally learned what his mother had done? What this would mean for our family? Agent Torres seemed to read my thoughts. We can attempt emergency contact with your husband through the research station if you'd like. I considered it for a moment but shook my head. No, this isn't a life-threatening emergency. They'll find out soon enough. As I left the office that evening, my phone had accumulated dozens of missed calls and messages. Family members calling me heartless, accusing me of overreacting, insisting I should have handled things privately. None of them mentioned that Diana had committed actual crimes. None of them acknowledged that she had tried to derail my career for Jessica's beach house dreams. I drove past Diana's house on my way home. Police cars were still parked outside, their lights painting the manicured lawn in alternating red and blue. Jessica's car was in the driveway, and I could see her gesturing angrily through the front window. Let them be angry. Let them finally face consequences. Back in my apartment, I opened my laptop to find an email from Diana's attorney requesting a meeting. They wanted to discuss resolving this misunderstanding without further escalation. I forwarded it to Harrison without responding. There would be no private resolution this time, no sweeping things under the rug for family peace. Diana had finally crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed, and now she would learn that some mistakes can't be fixed with manipulation and guilt trips. As I prepared for bed, my emergency satellite phone, the one only to be used for contacting Michael in true crisis, lit up with a message. Multiple attempts to reach Dr. Porter through civilian channels. Please confirm status of family emergency. I stared at the phone, knowing I could press one button and bring Michael into this mess early. Instead, I replied, no life-threatening emergency. Family situation secure. Maintain scheduled communication blackout. Let Diana explain herself when he returned. Let her try to justify stealing my future for Jessica's beach house fantasy. I had 3 weeks until Michael's return, and I intended to let the legal system do its work without emotional complications. Diana had always underestimated me, treated me like an outsider who should be grateful for scraps of family acceptance. Now she would understand exactly who she tried to steal from. I wasn't just her son's wife anymore. I was a senior executive who protected herself from exactly this kind of manipulation. And I was done playing family politics. 3 weeks passed like a slow-motion replay of chaos. Diana was released on bail, but the damage was done. Her perfectly curated social image crumbled as news of her arrest spread through their elite social circles. The country club suddenly couldn't find her tennis court reservations, and her charity board position was quietly suspended. Jessica alternated between sending me threatening messages and desperate pleas to drop the charges. Mom's reputation is ruined, her last text read, all because you couldn't share your good fortune with family. I focused on preparing for Tokyo, letting my lawyers handle the legal proceedings. The company had upgraded my security clearance and added extra protective measures to all my accounts. Harrison kept me updated on the investigation's progress, each new detail revealing the extent of Diana's planned deception. Then, exactly 21 days after Diana's arrest, my phone rang. Michael. Amanda, his voice sounded tired, confused. I just got back to civilization, and what's happening? Mom's under investigation. Jessica says you're pressing charges. I took a deep breath. Your mother forged your signature to steal my relocation fund. She tried to use it to buy Jessica a beach house. Silence filled the line. She wouldn't. He paused. How much? $250,000. She waited until you were unreachable, used your credentials, and forged your signature at the bank. Another long pause. I need to see her. Michael, I said firmly, she committed fraud. The company is pressing charges, not just me. There's security footage, documented evidence, even a recorded confession. She's still my mother, he replied quietly. And I'm your wife. She tried to destroy my career to buy your sister a vacation home. The silence that followed felt different. When Michael spoke again, his voice had changed. Send me everything. I want to see all of it. I emailed him the entire file, the documentation, the footage, the recordings. Then I waited. 3 hours later, he called back. "I'm so sorry," he said, his voice rough. "I had no idea she would. I never thought." He trailed off. "I'm at her house now. She tried to tell me it was a misunderstanding, that she was just trying to help Jessica. But I heard the recording, saw the evidence. She really did this, didn't she?" "Yes," I said simply. "She did." I told her, his voice hardened, that she needs to face the consequences. That I won't be helping her fight this. She started crying, saying I was choosing you over family. "What did you say?" I told her you are my family, and that she chose this the moment she decided to forge my signature. Relief flooded through me, followed quickly by sadness for my husband. Diana had forced him into an impossible position, making him choose between his wife and his manipulative mother. The next day, Diana's lawyer contacted the prosecutor with a plea deal. She would admit guilt, pay full restitution, and accept a suspended sentence with mandatory counseling. In exchange, she would avoid jail time. "Take it," I told Harrison. "I don't need her in prison. I just needed her to face consequences for once." The aftermath transformed our family dynamics permanently. Diana's power over family decisions evaporated. Jessica, faced with her mother's public disgrace, suddenly found herself without her usual safety net of manipulation. Michael and I attended the sentencing hearing together. Diana looked small behind the defendant's table, her designer outfit replaced by subdued business wear. When given the chance to speak, she turned to face me. "I didn't understand," she said, her voice trembling. "I always thought family meant doing things my way. I was wrong, and I'm sorry. It wasn't a complete transformation. People like Diana don't change overnight, but it was a start." 2 months later, Michael and I boarded our flight to Tokyo. Diana and Jessica weren't at the airport to send us off. Part of the plea deal included no contact outside of approved family counseling sessions. As the plane took off, Michael squeezed my hand. "You know what's ironic?" he said. "Mom always worried about you taking me away from the family. In the end, she did that all by herself." I rested my head on his shoulder, watching California disappear beneath the clouds. Sometimes the hardest lessons come from facing the consequences of our choices. Diana had learned that the hard way. But as we flew toward our new life in Tokyo, I realized something important. Sometimes losing a toxic family connection isn't really a loss at all. It's the first step toward building something healthier, stronger, and truly worthy of the word family. "Ready for our next adventure?" Michael asked. I smiled, thinking of our new beginning, free from Diana's manipulation and Jessica's demands. More than ready. The future stretched out before us, bright and unencumbered by the weight of toxic family expectations. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even, it's about getting free.